All right, we are here for another episode of Showman Currently in the Field, and we have Dr. David Newman joining us. Thank you for being here with us today.
Yeah, thank you for the invite. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Newman, you are currently the Senior Vice President at the National Pork Board. Will you tell us a little bit about what that role includes?
Sure. Well, at National Pork Board, my role is Senior Vice President of Market Growth. What our team does there is we manage the international marketing. So, think about the work we will do with United States Meat Export Federation around the world, right? Putting pork on people's plates outside of the U.S. Also, our teams manage the domestic marketing, which is part of our new brand campaign that we just launched with Taste What Pork Can Do. And then I also work with the teams that manage human nutrition and our business intelligence. So a really big umbrella, if you will, over in market growth. But if it involves pork globally and something that impacts pork globally, our team tries to touch that on a daily basis.
Awesome. Well, before we get to how you got into your role right now, I'd love to go back even further and tell us how you got into agriculture in general, kind of your backstory and what led you to what you're doing today.
Okay, well, it's uh, it's a somewhat traditional farm kid story. I'll start by saying that I was born and raised in the farming business, so I grew up in the hog business and the livestock business, really. Even to this day, my family we still own and operate a farming operation in southern Missouri. Um, we have had a fair to finish operation for going on 4 generations. So the pig business runs very, very deep in my family roots. And we're also in the cattle business as well. So it's livestock to the core. Grew up on the farm, doing all the things that farm kids do, right? Just hard work, watching the dedication, the passion that there is to agriculture. And I think that really got ingrained in me big in high school. Very active in FFA, things like that. Was fortunate to be a state officer in FFA. So thinking about how I started to get shaped into leadership, those type of things. That led me to college, University of Missouri. So go Tigers. University of Missouri for an undergrad in animal science. And thought I was going to be a veterinarian. Found this field of meat science and became very fascinated, which led me down the road of pursuing a PhD eventually at North Dakota State. So I PhD in meat science, also did an international agriculture minor in the University of Missouri while I was there. It's been a very interesting road. I've been in business, private business, consulting. Also was a professor for 13 years. So I was in the academia side of the business. But I will just tell you, if you know David Newman, then you probably know that it's like all things pork all the time. Love this business. Love being able to be in the seat that I'm in right now. That's a little bit about me. Got 2 kids, 10 and 12, and still, working hard to raise our kids the same way I was raised. So that's important to us. And we're living the best life. Life's good.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. Did you happen to grow up showing pigs as well then? You said you grew up on a farrow to finish operation.
Yeah, we grew up in a pretty large operation. We did exhibit hogs. A little different than probably today's showmanship, the way that the circuit runs today. But we took pigs every year my entire life to the barrow show, for example.
Yeah.
So we were in the purebred business. So we always went to the barrow show, took pins of hogs there, right? Because we were looking at meat quality and production performance, those type of things. And then exhibited females because we did sell a lot of breeding stock as well in the business. So we had a lot of Berks, still do have a lot of Berks. I grew up around a lot of that as well. Didn't run the circuit as hard as the individuals do today. Just a fascinating business. But I've been around livestock judging and evaluation and show animals my whole life. Was involved in that in high school, college as well. So it's a fascinating business, and I love it. And I especially love the concept of bringing youth into the business is really important, right? From an aspect of everybody's not going to grow up in on a large hog farm, right? But in my case, we didn't run to shows every weekend because we had literally tens of thousands of animals. So you work 7 days a week on a farm. You know how it is.
I do. So you mentioned that you have Berks. You said you have a lot of Berkshires, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're your favorite breed. So if you had to pick a favorite breed, what is your favorite breed?
Well, I'm going to pick a Burke, no
Okay,
doubt.
that's fine.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick a Burke. So our family's been in the commercial side of the business and also has been in the purebred side of the business, but on the meat side, not the show side. And the focus has been about meat quality, and so that's been really a cornerstone of what our family has done for years. So if I'm going to eat it and go for it, right, and I'm probably gonna have to champion the Burke. So that would be my favorite pick.
I support that wholeheartedly. So thank you for sharing that very personal opinion. I know that can be very touchy, depending on what favorite breed it is.
Oh yeah, it's like what color tractor you drive
That
or what brand of truck you drive, and I'm not advocating Burke for the whole business. I'm not saying that. But you said if I had to pick one, and if I have
one.
to pick one, that's going to be my choice.
Hey, I'm on board with it. That sounds good to me. Awesome. Well, let's fast forward. You told us about how you grew up. Let's fast forward into your day today. And I'd love to dive into the campaign that National Pork Board just launched here at the last 2 months, really.
That's right. Yeah. So it's an exciting time in the pork business, not just at National Pork Board. I think that as we kind of break this apart, if you want to, I think it's really important that we start to highlight the why and the how and where we're at today. So it is very exciting, as you mentioned. Back around the 1st of May, we launched a new brand campaign, something we've been working on for now the better part of a year, which is a very aggressive timeline that we met. But when I came into the organization back in June of 2023, we really took a hard look and a deep dive at the business. At that time, the hog business was totally opposite of where we are today in profit margins. For producers, it was in a pretty low state, actually, some of the lowest times we've ever experienced in the business. And what the board of directors and the CEO, or my boss, came back and said is we want to think differently. We want to think bold. We want to think different. What can we do to do that from a market growth standpoint? And fast forward through a lot of conversations and a lot of hard work by some really great individuals and teams here at National Pork Board, along with the rest of the industry. We ended up building out this new brand campaign, which is Taste What Pork Can Do. And that is intended to replace any other brand, any other campaign we have going around the activities that happen at the checkoff. So it's pretty exciting. It's meant to really think about the long-term value and long-term vision for pork in the U.S., right? That's really what this is all about. So I'm excited. What do you want to know? Because there's a lot to talk about.
Okay, so first, tell us about the audience. And even though we are pork producers, I have a feeling that this campaign is not going to be directly facing us. So talk to us about how that comes about and then who you do want to reach.
Yeah, that's a really important question and a really important statement too. Is that at the end of the day, this business all comes down to consumption, right? It really comes down to a very simple statement about consumers choosing to eat pork because they do have other options, right? So this is about consumers deciding and choosing that they want to eat pork and how we can position that in the long term. And this is really a domestic focus. That's an important piece. But if you think about the population of the U.S., right, you call this 340 million people. The bulk of the population in this country do not live near pork production, right? In most states, right, that in the Midwest, think about those traditional states we're used to, pigs outnumber humans. So when we look at that, and then we think about where we need to market to make it matter, right? To make it matter, you've got to go to those high population states, and you've really got to focus on those consumers. But the second thing is you have to break that consumer down. What does that even mean? So when we start thinking about what that means, it means that traditionally, right, some of our core pork eaters have been the older populations in the US. So it's been primarily individuals from the baby boomer generation and the silent generation. Pork was incredibly relevant to those generational groups, but there's actually been a bit of a generational gap. And so what we're trying to fill in now is that when I call this a generational gap, I mean that Gen Zs and millennials specifically eat considerably less pork, especially fresh pork, than what their parents or grandparents did. And that gap has been created from a variety of things. One of them being that, there was a lack of pork promotion for a fairly significant amount of time. And what you do there is that if you lose that customer, you've got to figure out how to regain them back. And so, I'm happy to say we're in market. We're doing this. We're working on demand. We're working on this with the broader business now. So that's really exciting. But it was a little bit of an eye-opening moment, right? Where you've got to look yourself in the mirror and as an industry, and you've got to say, hey, we've got a problem here and we've got to fix this. Just like you would do in any business, to say, we're going to have to think about innovating and make it the only product we make. We're going to have to think about making that better. We're going to have to work on this with the people that we work with and help them understand why we need to make it better. So you got to fix the problem internally first, and then you got to take it out to the people. And so we're at the take it out to the people phase, which is the fun part of marketing and promotion.
So Showpig had 11 students at the World Pork Expo, and the visuals there from Taste What Pork Can Do were so cool.
That's
And
awesome.
we also are running some ads on showpig.com. So if you go to showpig.com, because we do have a wide variety of audience. We do have our pork producers, but we also have a lot of showmen and parents that don't work in the industry and don't live on a farm. So they don't become a pork producer until they buy that show pig. So we're really excited to be able to integrate a few of the campaign visuals into our everyday life when it comes to show pigs. So the visuals, can you describe, like, if we're building a picture, because we're not seeing it right now, but when you see a visual of Taste What Pork Can Do, what is the feeling and the description behind that visual?
Yeah, I can sum that one up quick. Fun and relevant. Fun and relevant. If you look at the new campaign and you look at the ads, for example, or the tent, the information that you saw when you're at World Pork Expo, what you're gonna see and visualize there is something very fresh. It's colors you've never seen from marketing from the National Pork Board or the broader industry, right? We're usually, and I'm gonna categorize a lot of agriculture industry here when I say this, and I don't mean it bad, but right, when you're very business driven and you think about it, we tend to stick to those very sharp lines, right? We always color inside the box. And the thing about that is that if you're on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, right, any of the platforms that people are using today, the consumers that we're trying to get to, um, this is a color outside the box world we live in, right? And
Yeah.
so people want things that look good, that are fun, that are cool, that are different. That's not just stuffy, right? That's not traditional, and we're okay with that. So you're going to see. And by the way, we did consumer testing on all of this. We tested the colors, we tested the palettes, we tested the video, we tested the creative. So this wasn't a guessing game. This was something that was very data driven, but it has this very specific feel to it that is definitely very focused on being modern, being right relevant to Gen Zs, relevant to millennials. And you even saw the shirts we were wearing at Expo were this like, salmon colored or almost orange. And that's vibrant and different. It's not this traditional blue that I'm wearing today, right? That's a little different. So if you're going to be relevant with consumers, you got to meet them where they are. It's not trying to hook them and drag them where you are. You got to meet the consumer where they are and put it in front of them in a way that's relevant, because as I mentioned before, they have more choices than they've ever had before. They don't have to choose you, they can choose other things. And so this thing about marketing and promotion is a challenge, but it's also a heck of a good opportunity for the pork business.
Well, I love it. I'm excited to see what and taste what pork can do. Uh,
That's right.
where should we go to find more information?
Yeah, so this is super easy. If you literally go to tastewhatporkcando.com, it's there. I
Awesome.
mean, so it's not when you look at a brand guideline as an example for what we do, right? The checkoff is still very much a huge part of what we do for research and education. Think about PQA plus, right? The things that your show pick producers do, all producers do. The research we do around animal health and sustainability and all these other pieces. That's the checkoff. But if it's consumer facing, it is Taste What Pork Can Do. So we have the website, and also you can sign up for a weekly newsletter that we have, and it tells you like the exciting things that we're doing, working with retailers or food service companies, and so not just what we're doing in terms of social media marketing, but also what we're doing with marketing with the retailers and restaurants and things like that helps drive this process moving forward.
Awesome. And I love your recipes. I've always gone to the pork chuck off because I can always use some inspiration when making food. So I have carnitas on my menu this week in
Yes.
honor of our conversation today. So I would encourage everyone uh, pull out some pork, go to the grocery store and buy some, and taste what pork can do. As we wrap up this conversation, what is one piece of advice you have for a young person who is in the industry now showing pigs and is not quite sure what the future holds?
Yeah. Well, so I often think about this from back whenever I was a professor, right, too. And I would have students come in and say, gosh, Dr. Newman, I don't know what I want to do. And I'm thinking about all this. Here's what I would tell you is um, one is use your critical thinking skills, right, that you learn over time. And that's the one very important piece that's going to get you a long ways. But the second thing is do something you're passionate about. I know that sounds cliche and I know that sounds corny to some degree, but if it's something you enjoy and you're passionate about, you're willing to put time into it, no different than a show pig, which requires a lot of time, right? It's going to come through. The passion's going to translate, and you're going to find yourself in a position where you really enjoy the work you're doing, and that's going to be somewhat infectious to the other people around you. And next thing you know, you can create a groundswell. You can create a movement, and you can be part of a movement. So get excited, do something you want to do, have fun, and you know, it's a there's more opportunity today also than there has ever been in the past. So I'm pretty excited for what young people have in front of them. So if you apply that, the brains and the passion, and you apply that in combination with critical thinking, the world is yours. That is a fact.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We will all visit tastewhatporkcando.com. And also thank you to the National Pork Board for supporting show pig efforts in the way that you do. We have our pigs program. We have this partnership that's bringing you the interview. So it is truly a win-win as far as the pork checkoff goes, getting pork producers and getting the outreach to reach all of our audiences. So thank you, Dr. Newman, for joining me today. And thank you for listening to our interview.